Couple things to talk about today. The first one I want to talk about is all I've seen on Twitter lately. I've seen a lot of contradicting opinions, actually, which is interesting to me, given the nature of what we're about to talk about. But 4 potential rule changes happening in college football. Let's take it piece by piece, and then we'll cover it all eventually. But we're just going to take it piece by piece right now. The first one, they're talking about prohibiting consecutive timeouts. Thoughts there?
Yeah, I think it's dumb. For one, for sure. I don't know. So I guess give me a couple situations where you would call consecutive timeouts.
The obvious one is late game. You're trying to ice the kicker. That kind of goes out of the window. Yeah, you can use one timeout, obviously, but you're not burning all 3 of them at the end of the game.
Right.
I don't think that's a huge deal. I could say potentially. I would say, I don't know. I'm not mad at this rule change, to be honest with you. I don't see any super big problems with it. I was going to say maybe coming out of a timeout. You got your defense on the field. You want to call a timeout because you don't like what you see. But then again, you're coming out of a timeout. A TV timeout is what I'm saying. Coming out of a TV timeout. Very rarely are you going to come out of a timeout and not like what you have on the field. You had 60 seconds to figure it out.
I agree, but and again, of course, let's say they send out 12 people after a timeout. First of all, don't do that. Second of all, if you do, it's like, okay, I'll just hold on, let me call another timeout or whatever. Like, you run out and then get a delay a game because you're doing too many check, whatever it is. Like, but again, to me, it's like, what does this help? I don't really think it.
I think it's just game speed. I think that's all. I think that's what all of these are about. To be honest with you, it's just game speed, which I think is dumb. There's no reason to try and shorten the game unless you're worried about player health, but I don't think a lot of these have anything to do with player health to begin with. So I'm not mad at this one. I think this one's fine. It seems unnecessary.
Agreed.
They're just getting rid of the burning 2 and 3 timeouts to ice the kicker.
Yeah, I don't think it'll affect anything.
No, me either.
And rarely even now do you see, even on a big kick, 2 timeouts in a row.
Yeah.
Like, you'll see it here and there, but usually it's just 1 timeout.
In a game that close, the timeouts are typically used
already. Yeah, that too. Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on to number 2, the second rule that they're potentially going to add or change. There's going to be no untimed down at the end of the first and third quarters. This one's interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting because it doesn't matter at all. No, that's why it's interesting. This is so dumb to me because they just do it at the beginning of the second quarter. Or at the beginning of the fourth.
So that's my concern, right? I don't think it's going to be a problem necessarily, but I think it's a gateway to potential problems later. Reason I say that is because, like you said, you still have to have the untimed down at the end of the second and fourth quarter if there's a penalty. Now, if there's a penalty at the end of the first quarter, last play, and they would award one team an untimed timeout or an untimed down, it's just going to take place in the first play of the second quarter. But then time ticks off.
Yeah.
Right? And that wouldn't be the case if it were in the middle of the first or third quarter.
Right.
And what's happening is they're making the game less consistent, which can lead to more problems.
And what's going to happen too is the rules 3 and 4 that we talk about are also going to be affected by that.
Yeah.
Because it's other clock stopping rules, and with the clock not stopping at certain times, untimed plays, of course, will stop the clock because the quarter ends.
Yeah.
But when you go to the next quarter and then not only is the play untimed, but it's in the next quarter, then you're talking about a difference of possibly 60 seconds, 70 seconds. So it could be a big deal, but dude, there are so many things wrong with college football. I'm talking about there are rules that I'd like to change, of course.
Yeah.
But this is not them. Who pitches this? Hey, you know how once in every team's season, one time and maybe week 6 randomly, they have that untimed down. Let's just make it the next one. And everybody's like, oh yeah. Why? That's just dumb to me. I don't know.
Now here's the thing. Like I said, if you just said, hey, they're not gonna do untimed downs at the end of the first and third quarter in college football, I'd be like, all right, that doesn't make me any difference.
Right.
But the reality is it's the game's not consistent anymore.
Right.
It depends on which quarter you're in that the rules are which way. And that's a problem. That's a problem to me. Again, this one isn't going to make a huge difference, but it opens the door to the rules can be different depending on what part of the game you're in, and I hate that.
Yeah. And again, it can make a huge difference, and we'll talk about why here shortly.
So let's go to number 3.
Yeah.
The third rule being proposed is the clock runs after first downs except inside 2 minutes and a half. Previously, what the rule is now is that you get a first down, the clock stops until the ball is spotted, and then it runs again. I think That's the perfect way to do it. Why
Yeah.
would they change that?
And they tried this in the NFL, and I think it ruined that part too with the 2 minutes thing, like making it a time specific thing, like kind of you were talking about with the quarter specific. Like if you run out of bounds in the NFL and it's not within 2 minutes, the clock doesn't stop.
Yeah.
Hey, that's dumb, because and it's kind of the same thing, right? Inside 2 minutes. Well, if a team gets pinned at the 1 yard line and they have 3 minutes to go score, and their first downs up to 2 minutes are not stopped, like, hey, that's dumb as hell.
Yeah.
Like they're still in a time crunch, not, you know what I mean? Like, but then it's like, okay, you do it within 5 minutes. Well, now it's just dumb.
Yeah.
I don't like this one at all.
And I don't know if this is intended or unintended, but the first thing I think about in this is it's going to change the way defense is played.
Yeah.
Because it's going to shorten the amount of possessions anyway.
Right.
If there's more time ticking off after a first down, then both teams are going to have less possessions. So the defense can be way more aggressive.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Another thing is you run into the same consistency issue. Inside 2 minutes and a half, right? So with 2 minutes left in the second quarter, you run an entire different scheme, entire different offense.
Yeah.
Because you can slow it down now. In the time where you're supposed to be running your 2 minute drill, you can actually slow it down.
Exactly.
That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And so that's going to be the case for the end of the first half and the end of the second half. And whoever's got the ball in those times can run an offense the way that we've seen offense run previously.
Yeah.
Whereas everyone else is going to have to be scrambling.
Yeah.
Or not scrambling, and we just see 20, 30-point games as opposed to the 40, 50-point games that we've been seeing.
Which I don't know if that's the goal, but even then it's like, why? What's the point? I think it's safe to say that all of these are about shortening the game time.
Yeah.
And I get this segment I'll talk about after we get to 4, the last one. Go ahead with 4.
So these first 3 I think are lame. 1 I don't really have a problem with. That's prohibiting consecutive timeouts.
Right.
2 and 3 I have a small issue with, but I don't think it's the end of the world.
But they may turn into right.
And then 4, it's the end of the world. I mean, this is ridiculous.
Yep, apocalyptic.
Number 4, this fourth rule that they're proposing, the clock runs on incompletions once the ball is spotted. So they're going to take what the first down rule is right now and apply it to all incompletions. Hey, that's horrible.
Yeah, that's the worst.
We're just having a running clock at all times now.
Dude, my 8-year-old nephew has a running clock at his basketball games.
Yeah.
It's and the reason that is because it's not like a real game. It's just, whatever.
Yeah.
Hey, man, college football with all of these things going on with 100,000 fans in the stands, and we're going to do a running clock. Hey, that's dumb as hell.
Yeah. So let's take this into consideration, right? Let's take 3 and 4 into consideration together. Okay, we have a running clock on incompletions once the ball is spotted and a running clock after first downs, except for inside 2 minutes and a half.
Which doesn't matter. Yeah.
No. So the entire first quarter, for all intents and purposes, is a running clock.
Yeah.
So what was 15 minutes where you might have, let's say on average, we can say there's 10 incompletions a game per team.
Right.
So there's 20 incompletions. That's 20 times the, so you could say divided by 4, right, per quarters. So you'd say,
We'll call it 15 seconds in between plays.
so you'd say 10, hold on. Yeah, so let's say there's 5 incompletions per quarter overall.
Yeah.
Well, that's probably 5 to 10 minutes of game time that's not actually being had.
Yeah.
Right? People calling plays, getting their personnel right. That's all got to speed up. And this is going to benefit the high-tempo teams where it's not going to benefit the pro-style teams.
Exactly.
Which is,
because they're on the ball anyway.
yeah. And so the Oregons of the world, the Bamas of the world,
Yeah.
those type of teams that are running high-tempo offense, Tennessee, it's going to massively benefit
USC.
them.
Yeah.
I hate this. I hope to God it does not go through. Clock running on incompletions is the worst rule I've seen in the last several years.
Yeah, me too. And that's what you really got to look at, like how much time is usually in between or whatever, right? Because the clock stops. Like they're going to be, and especially 4 teams, the Oregons of the world, the Bamas of the world, the USC, the Tennessee, like they're going to be spotting the ball quick.
Yeah.
That's going to be like, assuming this goes through, that's going to be a big thing for them. When Tennessee is in the game, like they're going to tell refs, hey, once it's incomplete, like spot it because we're on the ball. Hey, that's a problem.
Yeah, and let's put it into perspective because a lot of times after an incompletion, right, the ball doesn't, or the play clock, so not the game clock, but the play clock doesn't start until the ball is spotted.
Right.
So then you have 25 seconds from the time the ball is spotted to snap it, and a lot of times the play clock gets down inside 5 seconds.
Yeah.
So you can say 20 seconds of time is ticked off the game clock that is now unavailable to either team
To use at all.
after every incompletion.
Yeah.
I mean, that's insane.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, when does the play clock start?
Yeah, when it's spotted, because
Because then it's the same as the game clock.
Exactly. And that's the thing too, right? Like, what about personnel changes like you talked about? If the offense subs, the defense needs to be able to sub. Well, the problem with that is, like, there's so many loopholes here that would really screw the defense. Like, it's messed up.
And so 3, like we said, rule 3 would say, okay, the defense can be more aggressive because the offense is going to have less time to go score. They're going to have
on the first downs.
Right. And then 4 is like, yeah, we'll negate that.
And that's the thing too. Like, what about throwaways, bro?
Yeah.
Like, what about incompletions that end in a freaking penalty?
Yeah.
Like, what about an incompletion that was a PI? The clock stopped. Like, it's horrible. What about spikes?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great point. A spike is an incompletion. It's an intentional incompletion. Yeah.
I mean, get a grip, bro.
That's a great point. I didn't even think about spikes. I wonder how they
so
would
let's
do that.
say so right. Yeah, you have your 2 line judges on either side of on either sideline. They are like in sprinter stance for as soon as they spike it to sprint in, grab the ball, spot it, then it stops. Eat me.
Or no, it doesn't.
Eat me. Well, no, that's right. Yes.
It doesn't stop. It starts.
So if I'm the opposing coach, I'm like, hey, they're about to spike it. Sprint in there and spot that bitch like right now. And then the clock just starts again. Sorry.
Yep.
Sucks.
Yeah. Look, they can't. Look, 1 is fine. The number 1 rule change prohibiting consecutive timeouts. That's fine. You still can ice the kicker, I guess.
Yes.
But the rest of these, man, there's 1, they're unneeded. And then the 4th one, clock runs on incompletions, that needs to go ahead and never be brought up ever again.
Let's talk specifically about the TCU game against Baylor this year.
Yep.
We get the spike and sprint off.
Yep.
Massive personnel change. And the clock's like...
They executed it beautifully.
Oh, it was great.
Yeah.
No doubt. But like, TCU loses that game.
Yeah.
TCU got blown out by Georgia, I understand, but they had a shot to make it to the national championship. They lose that game, they're out of the playoffs.
Tennessee loses to Bama.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's like, yes, like, will it save? Will it make the game shorter?
Yeah,
is that their goal?
Yes. That's a great point. If Rule 4 is in place, TCU's not in the playoffs, they don't play for the championship, and Bama's in the playoffs.
Yeah. And wins the national championship, but that's neither here nor there.
Probably doesn't win. Georgia was really good this year.
But anyway, well, we can move on.
Thanks for watching that clip. You can check out another in the top left-hand corner or the bottom right-hand corner. You can always subscribe as well to this channel or to Cards and Culture. That's linked as well. That's going to be our long-form content.
Yeah, make sure to check out the Discord in the description. Like, comment, subscribe, and we can keep this thing free forever.